Hi, good morning. This is Chris Buckley, Public Outreach, OCTA. I see Mr. Paterno, you're in with us.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Great, no problem at all. No problem at all. I think we're just going to wait for a few people to join us. Alrighty.
Sounds good.
Just put yourself on mute if you can in the meantime.
Okay.
Good morning, Ms. Ramadan. How are you doing?
Can you guys hear me? Good morning.
Yes, we can. We can.
Good morning.
We're just going to wait a couple of minutes to see if anybody else joins us.
Sounds great.
Ready, thank you. You can go ahead and mute yourself if you'd like. I'm just going to wait about another minute or so to see if we get a couple of more folks. Good morning, Mr. McClave. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good, thanks. We're just waiting. I'm going to give it about one more minute here, and then we'll get started. You can go ahead and mute yourself if you'd like.
All right. Is it just me? I can't see any other participants on the.
Oh, sorry about that. No, Mr. Paterno is on, Ms.
Okay.
Ramadan, and you.
Okay, great. I was just gonna. I hope someone else is on because I have to leave a little early today at 11 o'clock for another work meeting, but I'll be on till then.
No problem. And we're recording, so you'll be able to, we'll provide a link to the recording after we're done.
Great, thank you.
You bet. All right, I think that's it. 11:35, we've given folks a time to get on. They can always look at the recording, as I mentioned. So we're going to get started. On the line with me, on the webinar with me is Dennis Mack. He is the project manager for the 405 project. And we've also got a couple of our colleagues, my colleagues in outreach, Jessica Stock and Joey Fernandez, whom I think a couple of you might have spoken to, those folks. And it looks like, as I mentioned, we have Tom Paterno, Ms. Ramadan, Erica Ramadan, and Scott McClave. So the purpose of our discussion is to go over in more detail the landscaping plans, the environment that we're working in behind your homes there, and just give you a sense of what we're dealing with.
Okay,
Does that
great.
sound good?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. I'm going to share my screen, and Dennis is going to take the discussion away. Mr. McClave, I'm sorry, can you tell us what your address is?
Yeah, so I'm across the street from Erica, 3140 Boston.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. All right. I'm going to mute myself and share my screen. Hang on a sec here. Let me know if you all can see. We've got the landscape plan on the landscape concept as the first page, and we're going to walk through these 5 pages here. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Chris, and good morning to everyone. And thanks for joining us and giving us the opportunity to go over some information with you in the discussion. So again, my name's Dennis Mack. I'm OCTA's project manager for the 405 project. We're going to go over a couple of these exhibits here to kind of explain what we're doing out there and what we're building. We'll start with this exhibit that Chris shared here on the screen, just to orient everybody here on the exhibit. You can see the gray blocks here, those with the numbers. That's where your homes are located. This is on the on Fairview on the west. I always get this direction mixed up here, but I guess it's the south side of the 405. So on the exhibit on the right, not shown, is the 405 freeway and the Fairview Bridge overcrossing. Some of the lines here, I'll explain what these are. Starting from where your homes are located, there's a dash and a dotted line there. That's your property line. And then kind of moving to the west, there's a gray area here. That's the drainage ditch or access road right behind your property. Moving a little bit to the west, there's a dark line, a black dark line with a triangle and some rectangle symbols on it. That's the new retaining wall that's being built, currently built right now on the field. And then kind of more to the top, going towards the top of the exhibit, there's some faint lines there, kind of grayish, with the little triangles right there, Chris. That's actually where the existing wall was. So as far as what's going on out there, the improvements, as you know, the Fairview overcrossing is being rebuilt. Fairview is being widened, consistent with that bridge widening. There's a right turn pocket that's being added onto Fairview for access to the southbound 405 on-ramp. And so there's a retaining wall that's being built to accommodate all those road improvements. Like I mentioned here, under that gray area there, that's actually an existing drainage ditch that conveys drainage for that area and needs to be maintained. Under that drainage ditch, I don't know if too many people know about this. There is a AT&T duct bank utility that's in this area. And then of course, visually you can see right along your property line, there's some overhead utilities located right in this area as well. So as far as what this exhibit shows, I want to kind of go over this exhibit here. This is the landscape concept plan. There are detailed plan set that's already been developed from this plan, but kind of going from the left to the right, you see that there's some existing landscape that remains. And then if you move to the right there, you see the proposed landscaping there. In that area, there's pretty good amount of room there for us to restore the landscaping. And just kind of go back a little bit there. Yes, there were existing trees in this area that were removed. So in this area here, we have a good amount of room to work with. There are some trees that are being proposed along with some shrubs. And then those little green dots on that exhibit there, right along the wall symbol, those are actually vines. They're on 20-foot on centers. That's proposed to be planted on that wall. So as you move to the right, stop right there, Chris, that symbol is a rock blanket. As you go to the right, it starts narrowing and narrowing, and you can see this wall alignment is following you can probably recognize it. It's the right turn pocket alignment. And I understand there's some concerns. Why isn't there more landscaping in this area? So basically, it's we're running out of room here, and so that rock blanket is on a slope. And we'll get to that a little bit later and explain it in the cross sections. And then it kind of goes to a little pinch point there, and then it widens out just a little bit, and then to the right, keep going to the right. There's some more room there, and that kind of allowed an opportunity to incorporate a little bit more landscaping. There's a tree there and some shrubs there as well. We developed this landscaping concept with our design builder, I-405, and we also worked hand in hand with the city of Costa Mesa. This area here is actually within the right-of-way or jurisdiction of the city of Costa Mesa. We work with them to develop the landscape plan. After construction, this area will be turned back over to the city of Costa Mesa for maintenance. So Chris, can you go to the next slide here? Let's go to the cross sections. So if you recall, this is the cross section kind of in that area where I explained that there was plenty of room to accommodate landscaping. So you see here, looking more detail here, starting with RW 569. That's retaining wall 569, and you can see that that part's the retaining wall, and then there's a sound wall that goes on top of it. And then you kind of see the proposed landscaping. There's vines, there are shrubs, and then there's trees. And then there's that existing concrete drainage where under that, and we'll show you another exhibit where there's a utility duct bank under that from AT&T, and then the right-of-way, and then your property wall. Okay, Chris, can you go to the next section? So BB is the narrower section of this corridor. You can see again the retaining wall and then the sound wall. In this area, there are vines being proposed in this area at 20-foot on center. This area here and this cross section represents, shows you what kind of grades we're working with here. This rock blanket is being proposed to control erosion in this area and to guide the drainage into the drainage ditch. That concrete drainage ditch area is also, like I mentioned, it's an access road. So later on, the city of Costa Mesa will need to have, a wide enough area where, and this is not shown on the exhibit, there's some power lines, it looks like here on the right of way, but they need to have room to drive through there to maintain that wall and the vines and what have you.
Quick question, sorry to interrupt, but so that access road, I mean, obviously that's one of our big constraints here, along with the fact the rock blanket needs to be a slope as opposed to like another smaller retaining wall with a flat section on top of it that could allow for more planting surface area. But how wide is that access road now? And how wide did it used to be? Because there was always an access road there, but it was pretty narrow. It looks bigger now than what it used to be.
So typically when something is rebuilt, I don't know the exact dimensions of the existing access road, but typically, we try to work with cities to, they'll always ask to make things right. Whatever that width is, a 10-foot access road is very typical of access roads for many uses. We work with the county, Orange County Flood Control District, and that's typical, of what they ask for as well as far as and as well as Caltrans for access roads behind their sound walls and what have you.
And if I can chime in also, our neighbor Debbie, so 2 houses to the left of 3145, her prior to the construction, there was 9 feet between in this access road. Now there's 18 feet. So it's actually, there's way more room now than there was before. My question is, there's trees that are thinner, there's palmetto trees, Italian cypress. Is there absolutely no way to put any kind of tree between the rock blanket and the proposed vines?
We did explore this again. We brought this question back to actually OCTA has another consultant, a landscape architect that, if you will, kind of checks what the design builder proposes. Mm-hmm. We brought this question back to them. One thing we can potentially do in this area here where there's kind of limited space is to increase the or decrease the distance between the vines. So right now, if you notice here on the exhibit, it shows 20 feet on center. We can decrease that and make it more dense, essentially making the wall more green, probably will grow faster. I'm not a landscape architect, so but that's my understanding of what our landscape architect had mentioned. We did not ask to see if there are other like Italian cypress that could be planted in this area here, but we can bring that question back to him.
Ms. Ramadan, I also want to point out that what Ms. Holtz is seeing is not the final product at all, right? So there's still more wall to be built. There, as you've seen back there now, they have the soil nail, sort of the inside wall. Dennis, you can explain that better than I can. And then they will have the retaining wall itself that's built using forms and the rebar that you see going up currently.
Right.
And
so
they have concrete pours coming in as well. So the distance that she stated is not necessarily correct.
Okay.
Right. So to kind of give you a background on that, there's some soil nails that are being used to kind of stabilize that slope. In progress right now, as you know, the pile driving has been completed for that wall. They're doing a lot of rebar work for the footing and the wall. You see maybe a panel or two. I have a picture from about a week ago. Panels are starting to go up. They're going to start making their way kind of, I'm going to get the direction correct here, south along Fairview to continue that wall alignment. And that's going to go on, all the way until the end of April, where you're going to start seeing that wall being formed and the alignment. So that will be, kind of, this is pretty close to the final engineering plans. We do have a copy of the foundation plan of the wall plan that shows the alignment, and kind of go there quickly, Chris, if you can flip to that. So you kind of look, if you remember the other exhibit right there, that's the dark line with the squares on it. That's the wall alignment. And if you kind of remember the other one, it closely matches to that other landscape exhibit. And that's kind of where Chris is, hovering there. That's where that area where there's more room, but again, it kind of starts narrowing down there. But to your question, I think we can go back to our landscape architect, where Chris is touching there. There's a little bit of a triangle there, and we could look at to see if there's any chance to put some Italian cypress in that area.
Yeah, well, and this is Scott. I mean, I would challenge them also on, it seems like at least 50% of the available space that's there, even in that narrow pinch area, is being taken up by this rock blanket concept, which I get, that the slope will help with drainage and all that stuff, but that's not the only way to do that. And, and it takes up 50% of the usable space there. So I see how, like, okay, that little flat spot on top of the rock blanket before you hit the wall is a very narrow spot. Now, whether or not you can fit a tree there, that's up for debate. I mean, I see the trees on the sidewalk strips all the time with barely 24 inches of space, yet they work. If you were to replace that rock blanket with a straight vertical retainer wall and include like a pipe drainage to allow for water to come out of, now this newer increased flat area and down into the bottom area, that would still work perfectly functional. And all of a sudden you would double your space to put a tree. It's this concept of losing the trees. There were a lot of trees there before. They all got cut down or bulldozed. And now there are no trees and just a gray monolith that we get to stare at. And the plants that you're proposing to replace it with are relatively small, low lying. And I get they're drought resistant. There's a lot of benefits to them, but they, aesthetically, they're kind of ugly. I'm just going to come right out and say it. And, I don't have to look at it all the time because my house is across the street, but I miss the trees that used to serve as a visual divider between, the neighborhood and the busy road up there. And they helped serve a number of other functions besides just acting as a visual barrier. Those are gone, and if you're Debbie or Erica or anybody else, you've got nothing back there. It's going to take a decade or more for those vines to grow. They're vines, even morning glory, they're still slow moving. There's gotta be a better way.
So if I understand your question, and the idea is to, in that area there, right next to the drainage and the maintenance road area, there is to, instead of rock blanket, to incorporate a wall, some kind of retaining wall.
A small landscaping wall. I mean, if I'm eyeballing it, your cross-section view that you had on earlier, I think probably is a better, way to think about it. Yeah, that one right there. So where you've got the rock blanket and where it's a slope, imagine that slope gone, and you now instead have a maybe 3-foot wall, a small wall that you could make out of just about anything. And then that would allow for essentially double the flat area on top of it.
Okay. Well, we can take that back and take a look at it. I'm just kind of looking at it from kind of thinking out loud here. We're going to need to then look at if it's a wall that's being proposed. It's first it's City of Costa Mesa. We'll need to kind of run this by them. They'll have to buy into it because it's going to be their wall to be maintained.
Yeah.
And then all the other entities in there, you have AT&T, and I believe Edison's back there too with their poles. And kind of, to be honest, their poles are not exactly like straight up. There's some encroachments into the 10 foot. So we're going to need to have those entities also agree on what's going on here as far as providing access. So
Understood. Who are you talking to at the city? So that we may be able to grab their ear and let them know what the citizens are interested in doing.
our primary contact is Jennifer Rosales.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And then also, how much, what is the dimension between the rock blanket and the proposed vine? Do you guys know how many feet that is?
I don't think we have that right here. Chris, maybe, do we have the landscape plan?
We're talking about
actually,
right here?
Yeah.
Actually, we do, yeah, down below. I don't know if that gives you the view you're looking for, Dennis, though, in terms of, I don't
Right.
have the full landscape plans.
So if you zoom out a little bit and look at the scale. Yeah, we're going to have to go back. This doesn't have the wall on there, it looks like. This is just the landscape area, but it's 1 inch equals 20 feet. The wall symbol is not on there, so I can't pick it off. We can get back to you. We'll need to go look at 2 plans and kind of pick it off from there.
Okay, and I'm just more concerned, like, is there no tree out there that will fit in that amount of space? That's my first question. The second question is, I mean, you guys said you've been dealing and working with the city of Costa Mesa.
Mhm.
We were told in writing that for every tree removed, 2 were going to be put back in its place. Like, how is that possible to have a whole wall of trees and now nothing other than proposed vines?
Right.
How did that happen? Why were we not involved? Why were there not meetings? I mean, this is significantly impacting not only our property values, there's a range of things that this is impacting, and we weren't consulted at all. And now we're going to have to live with this for, decades to come.
Okay, well, we'll go back and take a look at the proposal to incorporate, more trees in those more narrower areas. I think the idea of going with the Italian cypress, I think it's a good idea. But I'm not a landscape architect, so we'll consult with him and get back to you guys.
Ms. Ramadan, I think to answer your question, this is the conversation to be having. And granted, you're the one pushing for that, and I appreciate the frustration you've had and about the discussion. The landscaping is still quite a ways off. So, and that includes the rock blanket. I mean, it's significantly down the line. There's work to do on this, which is expected on the wall itself, which is expected to wrap up hopefully by April. We talked about that before, April to May, actually, I think mid-May. And then there's cleanup work to do, right? They got to, bring the area sort of back to remove all the materials, remove all the equipment, et cetera. So about June, I think, is when we expect that to happen. But landscaping will take some time after that. And the way the process works is that there is a landscape plan, there's a development plan for it, that guidelines, if you will, that are established early on by Caltrans. And this particular area, if you recall, was not intended to have any landscaping until you guys asked the question, and we went back and talked to the technical team and asked further, inquired further, and discovered that, in fact, if they remove trees, they have to replace landscaping. And I could have been more specific in writing that, saying, because I didn't know at the time, though, what area was to be landscaped, right? And I didn't know what room would be available to landscape, what kind of space would be available, I should say. So we were waiting for the landscape designer, and that landscape design process does not typically include the public when we develop these initial concepts. But after seeing the concepts and asking the questions, like you're asking, like Mr. McClave is asking, I think that's when we go back and take a look and ask questions and say, what can we do differently to respond to the requests? And so that's what's happening now. But we also have to deal with the existing conditions or the final condition of the new wall and the construction. And I appreciate, Mr. McClave, you bringing up some different ideas about, well, could you do some sort of pony wall there? Could you do some sort of small landscape wall, to create more plantable space? Great question, right? So we're gonna sort of go take that back, but we do have to deal with the fact that this wall is moving significantly closer. And if you look here, here is where the original wall was, right? And here's where the new wall is, right here where these vines are. Those half circles are the vines. So, and 1 inch is 20 feet in this one, same thing. So, we're dealing with, I don't know if that's 3/4 of an inch. I'm at 150% now, the view on it. So, and we can get the exact dimensions of the amount of space that's lost and the closer the wall, how close the wall has moved toward your homes. But none of that stops us from trying to be creative. But there isn't, you weren't left out of the discussion with any intent or any purpose of any kind. We're just going through the process, I would say, as it is. And the city, this is theirs to maintain. They had to sign off. They had to approve of the plan. They're concerned about drainage. They make comments about that. They make comments about, access. And so, I think it's good that we're going to review this further and give some other ideas for them to look at, and that you give them some, speak to them as well and say, here's what we're looking to accomplish.
And we appreciate that. And then just from our perspective, I mean, we moved into this home 2 months before construction started. When we bought the property, I remember going into the backyard and saying, this feels like an oasis. It's beautiful. It doesn't feel like you're butting up against a major road and a freeway. And I thank you guys for taking the time and going back to them and speaking to them. But just please, as you're going forward, imagine if this was your home and you had to be in this backyard and you had to breathe in the air and hear the noise, and please do what you can for these 4 homes that all the trees were ripped out, and it's going to look vastly different. So that's all we're asking is, let's get as creative as we can and see what options are available, because this has long-term impacts for us.
Totally hear you.
Yep, we recognize that. So we'll go back and and consult with our landscape architect, and then also do our contacts with the city of Costa Mesa on anything that we can do here further. But I think, as Chris mentioned, we're pretty limited in space here, so just please understand. So we'll do our best, and we'll get back to you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And also, Debbie's been in contact with the mayor, and she fully supports replacing the 2-for-1 tree. So I don't know if she's been involved in this process at all. It doesn't seem like she has been, but early on she was looped in and highly supported replacing the trees. So I don't know if she can have any say in this or assist in any way, but she was definitely.
But she's definitely still involved. I don't recall any. I don't remember writing anything or seeing anything or talking about 2-for-1. So I'm not sure where that came from. It's not necessarily a commitment we are able to keep, and obviously space will affect that, right? So if we don't have the space, we can't do it. But coming back to that point of being creative, right, and hearing what you're dealing with and putting ourselves in your shoes, that's exactly what we're trying to do, and we'll go back and figure out what we can do, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do our best.
Okay, are there any more questions? I think we're running up at 11 o'clock now, so.
Yeah, sorry. This is Scott. I've had to hop on to my other call, so I've just been listening. I'm set.
Okay.
Yeah, and what do you guys anticipate? I mean, do you like getting back to us in about a month or so, or do you have any time frame at all? How long this takes to maybe have a further discussion or a revised plan?
Give us a couple weeks here to do this, and about 2 to 3 weeks. But we'll have Chris and his team be in contact with you.
Wonderful. Yeah, and to get back, Chris, I think the 2-for-1 came from the city of Costa Mesa side when they were informed of the situation, and I think it's some kind of rule on their end that for every tree replaced, the city puts 2 in its place.
Got it. Got it. Understood. Okay. Thank you. And thank you all for your time this morning. I know it's obviously this is very important to you all. It is important to us too. I will say that we try to have these kinds of conversations throughout the corridor when issues come up. And, we talk to people all the time about, walls, and, you've got a couple of instances at the north end of the project where, we're using temporary construction easements and we're actually working within people's backyards. And so we've had conversations with them as well, right? Because this project is so close to them. You guys are in a very similar situation, even though we don't have temporary construction easements, the project is right up against you there. So we do understand how difficult it is. And we know how hard it's been with the pile driving, with the construction. You've got 2 different kinds of foundations here for these walls, 2 sections. You've got a significant impact of the property. I know you've submitted, information regarding a claim, Ms. Ramadan, and we'll get that moving as quickly as possible and continue to push on the 405 claims department to take care of those things. But we know this has impacted your life for a significant amount of time, and we still have, another 14 or so months to go, 14 to 16 months to go. And hopefully it's less impactful though. We've got some night work coming up with the concrete pours. Just to be clear about that, the reason those pours have to happen at night is because the trucks we need to close off lanes for the trucks, and the city has been very clear we can't close off the lanes during the daytime. But we're trying to, and those are intermittently scheduled, so you're not going to necessarily get immediate advance notice of night work. We'll try to do our best to stay on top of it with the contractor. But you got about a half dozen pours, I think, coming up.
We will take all the night work possible. We will take all the noise if we can get some trees.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank you guys again. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.